and welcome back to Pitchfork Fiber Podcast, episode 2. My name's Hunter, and I am going to be your host today of this podcast. It's been a few weeks since I've last recorded, and so I've been quite busy with school and my own personal art making activities through school. Also, I'm working as an assistant diving coach assistant kind of thing at Arizona State University, where I am helping out their diving team. So I'm really busy with that, and then it's been a lot. It's kind of the end of the beginning of school, I guess. It's not normally September is kind of the beginning of everything, but now I'm in the zone. I'm in my routine, so it's a little bit easier for me to kind of get through the days and know what I'm doing, but it still takes a little bit of getting used to. So I do have a lot to show you today, which is really exciting. Last time I showed you just some things. I'm still going to be very rusty, but I've been posting quite a bit on Instagram. If you want to go find me on Instagram, it's Pitchfork Fibers, at Pitchfork Fiber. And I post quite often there. A lot of things I'm doing for school and also dyeing on my own. I'm doing some yarn dyeing. I'll show you that in a bit. And so I thought it would be good. I have a couple of things that I've finished since I talked to you last. So I thought, why not start with some finished objects? So let's see. My first finished object was, I showed you last week, was my good old friend pullover, which I made. I believe that's the name of it. Sorry if I'm like all the way down here. It's Good Old Friend pullover by Vera Valimaki, and I finished it. I'm not wearing it. What I am wearing though is my fan club, Fiber Fan Club at ASU. We made these cool shirts, and I dyed this t-shirt and I screen printed this myself, and it's also like on the back. It's a big cactus. It's knitting on the back. I don't know if you can see it. It's a cactus. It's super cool. But anyways, this is my sweater. It's very vibrant. I've adjusted some of the lighting. It's in the middle of the day here right now in Arizona, so there is sun coming through the window, so hopefully it's a little bit better. And this is my sweater. Oh yeah, I can already tell. This is much better. This lighting is much better, but this is the pullover. I blocked it. It's totally finished, and I am so happy with it. You can see it's a really vibrant chartreuse green with a little bit of variegated, so kind of like a mustard color, but mostly vibrant green. You can see that close up. Has a really nice detail on the front with the twisted rib on the neckband, the collar, and then it has this really cool increase-decrease kind of along the raglan area of the increase of where I was increasing because it was top down, and it fits absolutely perfectly. I'm going to take some photos and post them on Instagram. But again, this is made out of wool. This was sport weight wool that I dyed myself, and it's very hot out. I mean, actually, it's been very mild for Arizona this time of year. It's been like 85, 88 degrees, not even 90 the past couple days. So 90 degrees Fahrenheit here is quite mild for the time of year. So I can definitely not wear this. It's 90 degrees out. It's quite warm, but I'm so happy with it. It will go right to my hips. It's a little bit bigger, baggy, but I'm really happy about that. It took me a while. I started knitting it in May, and then I didn't actually finish it until just a few days ago. But it's because I kind of worked on it on and off. I didn't really. This summer I was working in Chicago, as I've mentioned in the past episodes, and I don't know. It was one of those things that I knit a couple rounds on here and there while I watched Netflix or whatever. So it's one of those things. I think knitting, people either they get stressed out about because they need to finish things, or they're too nervous to start things. And my thing with that, I guess my opinion on that is knitting is fun. I do it because it's something that it relaxes me. So when I'm sitting and watching, Netflix, or maybe even doing some homework and having to listen to a podcast of a teacher speaking or something, like I can knit. And even if I'm not knitting it on it every day, it's something that I can do. And then in a couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe a few months, I'll have an object. And so for this was a big one, the good old friend pullover. But yeah, I have a finished sweater. How cool is that? So, yeah, it took me 4 months or something like that. But oh well, it looks awesome. Another finished object I have is not knitting, it's actually weaving. So, last podcast I was talking about doing a really large weaving project for my woven structures course that I'm in school. And this project, that's all I can say. It's just like a big sigh. This project was extremely time consuming. Extremely, extremely time consuming. Um, I don't even know. I was gone. We were given, I think, 9 days to do this work. And of course, I went above and beyond because that's kind of what I do. I have an idea and then it evolves into this large thing and it takes me forever. Well, this was no exception. This weaving took me forever. So what I did was it's 3 panels, a triptych, 3 panels of weaving, 30, around 25. They ended up kind of becoming a little bit more rectangular, but not very much. They're like 28 inches square almost. And they are all hand woven on a loom. I dyed all the fabric, all of the yarn myself, and I used quite a small amount of per inch threads. So in weaving, you can do a larger dent, which means like you have maybe 5 per inch. It's kind of like weaving. It's like it's a bigger gauge. You have 5 threads per inch, but I use 15 ends per inch. So for 15 strings equals 1 inch. So over, I don't know, 30 so inches, it gets to be a lot. And then you're also doing that in a very distinct pattern. So I'll show it to you. Excuse the noise of it's in it's a trash bag because I didn't want it to get anything on it because I actually am submitting this. I submitted it for an exhibition show that will be up, and I believe I'll be giving this. It will be being sold as well, so I want it to be taken care of. But right now it's kind of rolled up. But I have finished it, and I want to show it to you. I'll insert some pictures and some detailed images just so you can see what it's like. But I'm really proud of this. It took me a long time, like I probably said for the 50th time. Sorry, there's dog hair in my mouth. Perks to living with a husky. I'm really sorry about that. But this weaving project took me quite a while. But I'm really proud of it. I finished it. Probably took me, 50, 60, 70 hours of weaving over that 9 days. It was an incredible amount of time it took. But my first panel that I did this was my inspiration. So I'll just tell you, I don't want to show you, I want to tell you about it first. Or maybe I'll tell you about it while I go. So this is my first panel. So this panel is woven in a gradient pattern going from dark to light on both ends, and then dark to light coming in towards the center. So there, you see, is this really beautiful square. And that square was inspiration from when I went to the ASU Art Museum. The prompt for the project was to be inspired by something at the museum. And as I was walking out of the building, there's this wonderful staircase, and you go in underground. And when you walk up, the light was just shining through this tunnel. So it's this bright square of light kind of bursting into the darkness of the tunnel that I was in. I was really inspired by kind of the architecture, the Pueblo architecture of the building, but then amongst that, the kind of geometric shapes and forms that it created, and the light and shadows. So I was really interested in thinking of gradients of color from dark to light. And then my teacher, I was planning on only doing that panel, and then she's like, well, if you're going to go to all that trouble to thread your loom, you might as well do another color. So my second one that I did was, my second one was the pinks, oranges, and yellows. And this one goes from this kind of color right down here, all the way into this yellow, and back to this kind of pink with this orange pop in the middle. And this one again was the second one I did. And then I finished it off with a third panel. And because it is a triptych, they all go together. And this is the third one with these beautiful, this kind of navy blue into this more seafoam, to this green color, the middle, this mint, and back out. And if you notice, there's actually a really cool pattern that it makes. It's like a diagonal, zigzaggy diamond, and it repeats itself throughout the entire thing, but where it shows the most is in the dark areas. So I finished this. This was about 3 yards of fabric, completed. And I got really good feedback from my teacher and from my classmates about this project. I was really happy with it. I submitted it to a fiber exhibition that will be in Arizona. And sorry, I'm going to put this away real quick just because it is very thin and it gets wrinkled quite easily. And I don't want it to get too distorted because I spent quite a bit of time steaming it to get the wrinkles out when I photographed it for the exhibition. But if you guys want to know a little bit more about, submitting artwork and things, that can always be something I talk about later on. But that's that. I'm really proud of it. I'm a little astounded with how long it took me to do that, and how short the time requirement was for the project. If it were a longer amount of time, I think I would have been a lot more happy kind of during the process, but I was very stressed to finish on time because it was a lot of weaving and it was very intricate. So it took me quite a while. I also hand-dyed everything, and when you dye things, you have to, again, skein them and then wind them into a ball, and then wind them onto your bobbins, and then weave, and then you run out, and it just is a lot. I had a lot of threading mistakes when weaving my loom. I had almost 500 ends, 500 little strings, so it took quite a bit of time. I'm very happy with it. And I'll insert some pictures, like I said. Some other finished things I have are, again, not knitting, but they are some dyeing of fabric. I'm also in a surface design class where we talk about different materials. We've been doing natural dyes, and I have a really awesome project upcoming, but I was very inspired by some of these fabrics, which I dyed. So let me show you those. So the first one I'm going to show you, these are eco bundle dyes. And if you don't know what eco bundling is, eco bundles are where you take fabric. Most of the time it is with a protein fiber, meaning raw silk or a wool or something that's made from an animal, and it works best producing on that type of material. But what you do is you gather materials from outside, so leaves, it can be flowers, it could be bark, it could be different type of nuts or things on the trees, anything like that, and then you lay it down on your fabric. I'll insert a picture here from my Instagram. And then you roll it up into a bundle very tightly so that all the fabric is touching all of the different leaves and materials. You wind it up, you bundle it up, that's the name, and you stick it in a pot of boiling water. But there's a little bit more to it, but that's pretty much the basis of it. And then throughout this chemical process, it kind of binds to a mordant, through a mordant, which is a kind of a binder that connects the fiber and the color to the dye together to create this kind of stamp. And so I used I used different materials. I'll show you this first one. This is eucalyptus leaves and sumac leaves that were um, dyed on raw silk. And I got this gorgeous patterning of fabric, of the way that they kind of burst out. And these colors are just okay. So my next piece of work that I dyed using the Eco Bundle technique, I used only sumac leaves, African sumac leaves. They are the ones that turn really bright yellow, a really beautiful chartreuse color. And I also decided to use cochineal. Cochineal is a bug, a microscopic bug that acts, not microscopic, but it's very small. You actually don't see the bug, um, but they kind of clump together on a specific type of cactus that is um, primarily grown and is native to Arizona. And it's called a prickly pear cactus, and they only grow on that cacti. And when harvested, they can then be incorporated into your dye pot to create a vibrant red color. So I harvested just a little bit, a very small amount, but it turned my overall dye bath this beautiful pink color. It didn't turn out super duper red because I only used a little bit of it. However, this is what my final result was. And these are the African sumac leaves. And then up here, this kind of pink color is the cochineal bud, and that I harvested myself. So this all was harvested around where I live in Tempe, Arizona, and it really came out absolutely beautiful and very vibrant. When you're done taking these out of the pot, when it's steaming and boiling, um, kind of in the water, I dunked it in iron, a pot of iron, and that iron kind of changed the color chemically into beautiful bright green, kind of darkened the colors. My next piece is dyed with another technique that's quite interesting, and it's called rust dyeing. And rust, all everyone knows stuff that's rusted, metal, um, but you actually can rust your own. You can rust your own metal by yourself by putting in a um, putting metal into a jar or something with half water and half um, vinegar, and that will kind of speed up the process. And then what I did was I laid out my blank piece of white fabric, and then I incorporated different bike chains that were rusted into the fabric. I then kind of sandwiched them and rolled it up into a bundle again, and then I put it into a bucket and sprayed it with vinegar and water for about a week. So I kept it moist the entire week, and then once the week was done, I unbundled my fabric, and this is what came out of it. I mean, look at those. Those are you can actually see the chains of the bike chains, the actual links. It is so dark and so vibrant. It's this gorgeous rust brown, which is brown orange. You can see there's some pockets of darker, more browns. There's parts where there's lighter bits. But overall, it is just absolutely unbelievable. And how I got you can't even do that on purpose. This was so kind of natural, just to happenstance how it works out in the dye when it dies and resists, and it's so cool how unique every piece is. I dyed up some more indigo just this morning, and this was just one dip of indigo on some plain cotton. It's a really pretty color. I got some swatches, which is what I wanted. Um, and those are all my finished objects. And I wanted to talk to you about a project that I'll be doing for my next one of my next projects. I'll actually be doing some quilting using applique and embroidery and all of and a lot of hand dyed and kind of natural dyeing techniques to create this kind of art quilt. It's going to be very unique. I have it in my brain. I'm kind of toying around um, with different items. Whether I've been looking at traditional quilt blocks, and I really want to go outside that and think about the paths in which they're stitched, the paths in which they kind of follow a pattern, and then mix it all up. And by using these really cool materials that I've made myself to really highlight that, and then incorporate some more three-dimensional aspects with the embroidery, the stitching. I think it will be really cool. I'm doing that right now. That's what the indigo's for. I'm dyeing more rust. I have to eco dye more. Um, that's what I'll be then appliquing onto the fabric. So I have a lot ahead of me, but it's gonna be great because I love to dye. I love to dye things, whether it's fabric, yarn. I think that's my favorite. I mean, not my favorite, but the process is so gratifying, and I really enjoy that. And talking about dyeing, I actually dyed up some bear yarn, which I bought specifically for a project that I had been planning on. I talked about it in last episode. I wanted to make the flax light pattern by Tin Can Knits. It's a small baby pullover with it's a free pattern. It has a unique kind of all the way up from the neck down along the sleeve, a little rib of um, of stockinette, no, um, of just plain knitting, reverse stockinette down the side. It's all purl bumps, but it's because you're knitting in the round, you purl every other row. Is that? I don't know. I'm confusing myself, but just down, you see the purl bumps. Everything else is in stockinette stitch. So okay, garter. Oh my goodness. It's in garter ridges all the way down the garter. I don't know why. I couldn't think of that. Anyways, I dyed up some fabric. And you might have seen it on my Instagram page. I posted a picture of the colorway I dyed up. It's for a little boy, and I was really just experimenting. I had no real thoughts. I wanted to maybe use I wanted to speckle. I knew like that. I knew I wanted to speckle, but I did that, and I came up with. Let me just get it out here with this colorway, and it's just really beautiful. It's blues and greens, speckles of yellow. If you look right at the top, there's bright specks of kind of this bright green throughout. It's a really pretty colorway. I don't know, I just was messing around. And this is what I have so far working on this. I am in the middle of kind of a row. Excuse me, but you can kind of see these are little shoulders that are starting. This is the neckband. This is the front. And you can see on the side there's little garter ridges down the shoulders. So those are going to be the two shoulders. And then I have probably an inch, a little bit less, until I separate for the body, and then um, put the sleeves on some spare yarn and keep going. It's going to be so small. This is so small. Look how pretty that's kind of coming out. Really pretty. I'm really liking how variegated, but it's still all within the same color family. This has been probably a day or two of working. I cast on maybe 2 days ago, started the ribbing, and then I realized I didn't really like the way it was turning out. I don't know if it was because I dropped down needle size because I always tend to be really loose with my knitting, even though I don't think I am, but I normally go down one or even two needle sizes per the needle for what the needle size says on the pattern, and I swatched and I got gauge on my rows, but then on my stitch count, but then my rows were a little off, so I thought, oh, that's fine, I'll just knit to the amount that it says to knit, like in inches. So that was no problem. But I'm using a size US 4, which is a 3.5 millimeter needle. Um, and this is on my own yarn that I dyed. I'm really happy with it. It's going to go so fast. So, and that's living in my one project bag, which I made myself. But I have plans. I'm thinking I'm going to start making some project bags, maybe selling them. I don't know. I've been really in the mood to dye fabric. So I thought maybe that could be really an interesting thing to do. But that's all I'm working on right now. That's all that I've been knitting. I just finished my sweater, which was a big one. I really wanted to finish the cuff on that, and I had so much problems with that because I was knitting, and then I knit way too much of down into the sleeve, and I realized that it was like an inch longer. One sleeve was an inch longer, and then I had started the 1x1 twisted rib. But then if I did all the twisted rib, it would be so much longer. So I ripped back, and then I realized that I forgot to decrease when I ripped back. So I had to do it again. It took me a while, but I mean, it was just a cuff. It was just a couple inches, but finished that. That's off. My next project I want to start is um, the shawlette scarf thing. I forget what it's called, but I mentioned it last week. I haven't started it. I'm still looking for yarn, but once I do start that, I'll of course show you on here. I want to show you this. This is I have a little bag which I take to and from class. It's like I have my book bag with all my um, notebooks and sketchbooks and things like that inside. But then I take this. This is my fiber bag, and it's something I just made up. It's foxes. I love the colors. That's why I was drawn to it. I love orange and the blue together. It's great. That's a little brown bottom, gusseted bottom, and I even put a little tag with my name on it. And then inside is this blue as well. And I even put a zipper on the inside. You can kind of see the zipper. And then in here is just like, I have some fabric that I scoured to be ready to dye. I have some string that I natural dyed in, I believe, onion skin and prickly pear. I have embroidery hoop with nothing being embroidered on it. I have some fabric, which I have dyed, and then I'll show you this. This is really interesting. I have my binder, and in here is my kind of like my guide notebook. It's really interesting how I've kept this, but in this notebook I have different techniques like shibori, which is a type of Japanese resist dyeing with different. It's just like little things to reference with different types of techniques and different types of patterns that you can do. And then I have a dye research, which is where I dyed fabric colors, and then those colors have specific. So like this color, whatever. This color is with this. This is the info on the back of that color. And then there's this color. And I have all the recipes on the back of each of those. And then I have just some, I did a project, I think last year, that I used references in, and I wanted to keep everything in a spot. And I was really inspired by the 1960s and the 50s and 60s kind of pop art and this war propaganda time. And I created this is kind of my inspiration were these photos. And then I kind of created this really random, this quick sketch of an art quilt that I made. And that art quilt was done with all hand dyed. I'm looking at it right now because it's on my wall. Because I was really proud of it. It took a long time. It's my first real project incorporating embroidery. I never really had embroidered, but I embroidered the faces, and I did a lot of new techniques. I did a type of image transferring using a using an inkjet printer, using a solvent, kind of and basically the toner is then burned onto the fabric, and you can do it on any fabric. So I did that. It's a type of um, image detail that I added into it, along with I did embroidery of images, and then I did some kind of wonky quilt stitching, and then I did like really crazy patchwork background with these different colors that I was inspired by, which I bought, and those were kind of like 50s prints, 50s and 60s prints, along with my hand dyed fabric that I dyed. Um, yeah, and it's probably like it's about a yard long, by 25 inches wide. And I just took some pictures of that, so I'll insert that here. I just took some photos of that. I'll insert it here to show you what that looks like. I'm really proud of that. And I also am maybe going to put, I also uh, submitted that for a show that's coming up. But I mean, I submitted them. It doesn't mean that I got it in, but we will see. I should hear back in a week. So if I know anything, I'll let you guys know next time I podcast. But I'm just really excited that I'm doing this podcast. I'm really happy that I'm able to talk with you all and share my experiences with fibery goodness, whether it's dyeing or dyeing fabrics and yarns, or knitting, or weaving, or quilting, or whatever it may be. I'm really excited because I've never really had a space that I could compile my thoughts and everything into, and I'm really excited to share these things, because a lot of times people ask me, what do you do? And I say, well, I do fiber things, but they don't really know what that is. And so here I'm able to show people what I do, and that's not just knitting. It's not just dyeing fabric. It's using all of that and bringing it together into really an art form. And I think we talk a lot about this a lot in art, is how we have high arts, and we have a hierarchy of what people perceive art to be. And fibers a lot of times is more towards the bottom because of its past historical kind of feminist movement and craft orientedness of it as an actual medium of an art. But over the years, it's really changed, and so now art in fibers can be very contemporary, it can be very traditional. It's so multi-dimensional, and I think that that's what's really cool about fibers, is because people, unlike some like painting, to be a really great oil painter, a lot of times you need a lot of technical training, because it's really hard, and so is fibers, but it's something that people can do, and they're not as, there's not a barrier. People are able to really, motivate themselves to try and succeed, and it's exciting. But then to take that another level and see it in a fine art setting rather than just, a hobby or a craft is really cool. So I'm getting both sides, and I'm really enjoying that, because I've always seen it as more of a hobby and craft, because I love to knit just for fun. But now I'm able to see how this can be a career, and I'm starting to grow my art career with my own art kind of portfolio and my own ways of doing my art, which I'm still finding, and I don't really know what that is yet. So I'm excited for you all to come on this journey with me. I'm sorry, my voice is kind of soft because I've been sick. I kind of had a cold this past week, and I got real sick a few days ago, where I like really couldn't talk a whole lot. So this is you're catching the end of it, but I hopefully you could hear me this whole past podcast. But um, thanks again so much for coming and joining me and watching this podcast. I hope it was more smooth than last week, but I hopefully will see you in a few weeks. I will be quite busy this upcoming weekend and the weekend after that, but then that gives me a lot of time to be working on things to show you for the next episode. So until then, I hope you enjoyed it. Go out and do something fibery, do something crafty. Go knit on something, or experiment. So, but I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you want to see any more videos, or follow me on Instagram at Pitchfork Fiber. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.